This is Frankie Pineapple, and I always check out the Johngy or Else podcast. What else is there to do in life?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Johngy or Else podcast. I, of course, am who else but Tommy Else. And I doubt that you've noticed his absence thus far, but not with me, as always. Usually coming to us from Skokie, Illinois, the man on the beat from johngysbeat.com, Mr. Jonathan on strike Roblesky. I did give a preface at the last episode that John was, well, let's just call it insubordination. And I really advocated for him. I really tried hard to make it work and talk to the committee and everything, but he kept pushing, and on social media, particularly on Facebook, which is part of the internet, he decided to be vigilant in his defiance. And so I have been asked to do this episode on my own without him. So I'm sure most of you probably wouldn't have noticed, but I think it's worth noting just for the sake that the committee is not an entity that you should mess with. And John has reaped enormous rewards from being a part of the show, and the fact that he just basically gave them the finger. You know, I mean, what else do you expect them to do? You know, so anyway, so it's just going to be us today. It's going to be you and me. It's you and me on the podcast today. It's a private podcast. You with who else but Tommy Else. And, when I have a chance like this, I like to talk about some things that are kind of relevant to me. And so let's talk about, most people know I'm a very big Smashing Pumpkins fan. This stems long before any interaction I ever had with Billy Corgan in the wrestling world, but I have been a Pumpkins fan since my high school days, which at this point are long ago. Right now, he has a concept album out, and it's called ATUM, spelled ATUM, and it's sort of a rock opera, if you will, sort of in the lineage of, say, The Wall. But this is set in a space setting, somewhat futuristic, but not too far removed from our reality. And what he's been doing is he's been putting out an episode every week of a podcast called the 33 Podcast, and the album is 33 songs. And every week he releases the next song in the album, and he gives some sort of description or explanation as to what the story is and where things are at this point. I've been like I said, a long time Smashing Pumpkins fan. This is a situation where I personally, and doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but I personally would have rather have heard the album without any explanation whatsoever, come to my own conclusions, and then later read about what the songs were actually about. Hearing about it beforehand and then hearing them it just sways your perception of them. And one thing I like with music is that you can hear it and hear it for what you take it as, you know. And I feel like that initial um, uh, gut reaction to that song, you know, is the one that sticks with you the most, you know. And after that, you know, if you hear it like, well, it's about this or it's about that or whatever, you can kind of take it or leave it or whatever. But if you know going into something before you even hear it, it does seem very it does for me at least, like I said, it affects the way that I look at the song. So um that being said, and it's taken me a little time to acclimate to the album. It's certainly very different from what they've done before. A lot more synthesizers and things of that effect. I do love all of the female vocalists. I believe there's two of them on there, and sounds great. The Billy had said at one point on the show that if you're a Pumpkins fan and you can't find 10 songs out of the 33 that you like, then they're not doing their job. Well, we're into Act Two, which is 22 songs in, and I have found at least 10 at this point. So um, I'm very, I really like The Calling. I really like um, To the Grays, maybe one of my favorite songs because it's very much a Zwan type song in my estimation. I really like the vocal rhythms to it. I don't know. I'm digging the album, you know, and now it's taken me a while because at first blush, you know, hearing this is again with the thing with listening to the podcast, hearing the songs one at a time, it's like, eh, it's okay. I don't know, like I didn't quite respond in the same way, but when I hear it all together as a piece, then it makes a bigger picture and I feel a lot more connected to it. So they've released the first song of the third act, which gives us 10 more songs to go. And I don't, uh, it's a longer song, which I was hoping they would have at some point. Most, you know, Pumpkin songs usually have an 8 or 9 minute song on the album, which is something I like about it. Um, I like the song. I just kind of need to see where it goes from here, I guess. So, you know, but I feel like by the time the whole thing's done, I'll feel pretty good about it. And but I do feel like the second act has grown on me the most. I really love the guitar stuff on the second act across many of the songs. So, um, yeah. So I will let you know what I think when Act Three comes out, which I believe is going to be in April.
This is Frankie Pineapple, and I always check out the Johngy podcast. You should too.
This last week, I celebrated my 11th anniversary, my 11th birthday in the pro wrestling world. Eric St. Bond debuted February 17th at the Excalibur in downtown Chicago. And, you know, I still acknowledge the old wrestling birthday because that night was just one of the most incredible nights of my life. I went out there. I had never been in a professional wrestling show in any capacity whatsoever. I went out there as the new valet alongside Darcy Dixon, which, as far as I knew, I mean, I was going out there because I had won a contest, basically. That was um, just sort of just you get to go out and be in one spot. But I won this show or won this contest, and then they put me in with a continuing storyline. So they made me part of a stable, like right out of the gates. Um, or I guess Billy did, really. And I went out there. I did what I was told. He told me my name was Eric St. Vaughn. I quickly forgot it, and embarrassingly enough, had to go back to him and ask him again what my name was, because it just wasn't a name that like really really sticks on you. And so I was like, all right, all right. And so I'm Eric St. Vaughn. Okay, he said you're the personal trainer to the stars, doing the classic take who you are and embellish it. So he knew I was a personal trainer, so he was trying to like ramp it up to something bigger than that. So made perfect sense. I just had a hard time with the with the name, but yeah, got out there, did the whole thing. Before going out there, I sat with him and Harry Smith and had pizza and ate dinner. Um, eating Sitting down and eating pizza with Billy Corgan at that point was something that I would never in a million zillion years ever think was something that it would happen to me. And yet it was the first of many other happenings that were of the same caliber. So I owe a lot to him, and I'm very grateful for all the things that he did for me. So on what is close to my wrestling anniversary, I once again thank him. Uh, so in sort of the music realm, just a quick jump off, I have been playing a lot more electric guitar lately. I got into acoustic when I was in my early 20s, and a lot of it was because of Beck and his album Mutations. And that acoustic album really made me appreciate the sound of acoustic guitar and the style that you could write music in and things like that. But previous to that, I used to play electric guitar and try to write songs in that format. And I literally went like almost 20 years without doing anything electric guitar. So a friend of mine gave me a pretty decent one, and I already had a decent amp, and so working on some stuff. So we'll see how that goes. Um, Last but not least, I know that in the last episode that we talked about the Super Bowl chili that I'd be making for this year's Super Bowl for me and my friend Rick. Famously, the year before, I had done 3 bulbs of garlic in the chili versus 3 cloves because I did not understand the vernacular of it. This year, I did the chili proper, and I think there was only 2 of us, and we almost finished the entire crock pot of chili. So it was a success, and I feel vindicated. So with that, I think we're going to wrap things up. Again, I think that we were probably better off just you and me jamming here. Um, if you would like to interact with me, if you'd like me to address a question, uh, if you have any comments, criticisms, anything about the podcast, yes, you can contact me at Tommy_else on Twitter, Tommy_else on Instagram. You can find me on the Johngy or else Facebook page. You can find me on the Johngy or else YouTube page. You can find me on Pro Wrestling Tees. if you go to the johngysbeat.com page and just scroll past all those John G's Beat shirts with the stolen South Park intellectual properties and go straight to the John G. Orles podcast t-shirts and or hoodies. So, for the John G. Orles podcast, I, of course, have been who else but Tommy Ellis. And without me is the man on the beat from johngysbeat.com, Mr. Jonathan, I'm on strike, Roblesky. Peace and love.
This is Frankie Pineapple, and I always check out the Johngy or Else podcast. You should too.